I take the night shift because the store sounds different after dark. County Market sits on a fork in the road. Highway traffic peels off toward a sleepy neighborhood, and behind our parking lot, the tree line turns into a black wall. The sign creaks when the breeze shifts. The canopy lamp over the door hisses and sometimes blinks like an old TV warming up. Inside, the coolers hum one long note. When a compressor hands off, the tone slides a half step, like the building just swallowed. On my first night, I came in early, just to learn the rhythm, what clicks when, which shadows are honest. Close to midnight, I heard it for the first time, soft, dragging against cardboard, then 3 deliberate taps on the back door. Tap, tap, pause, tap. It wasn't the loose chain or some random thermal pop. It had timing, like a person teaching a door its own heartbeat. My mouth went dry. I took the flashlight, slid the chain, and stepped into the narrow run between our cinder block and the back fence, where the creek smell lives. Nothing. The dumpster breathed metal. My light skimmed wet concrete, the furred backs of weeds, paint scabs on the rear exit. The air carried a faint metallic tang, the coin in a fist smell. I listened long enough to feel stupid and went back inside, telling myself I'd just met the night's first trick. An hour later, the same little code. Tap, tap, pause, tap. I went again, faster this time, and a shape sat at the threshold in the cone of my Beamer raccoon, soaked and shabby. One eye was cloudy, the other clicked like a lens every time it turned. He didn't flinch at the light. He stared past me at the handle, not at my face, as if the handle made noise only he could hear. "So you're the one messing with me," I said, trying to put a smile under the words so my hands would stop shaking. "We keep dog biscuits under the counter for the drifters and strays." I fetched one, crouched, and held it out as steady as I could. The raccoon rose and recoiled like I'd swung. He spun and shot into the pines. He didn't sniff, didn't even flick an ear toward the treat. As he vanished, the canopy lamp flickered twice and settled into a dimmer, older light. When I came back around front, a fresh handprint waited on the glass. Rust red, matte, placed carefully heel of the palm, 5 pads, the whorls clear enough that a person who knows how could have powdered and lifted it. On the ring finger, a tiny break where a scar must have cut the pattern. That mark made the print feel like a message without letters. I wiped it because that's my job. I told myself, kids. I told myself, the day shift missed one and it oxidized. I told myself a lot of little things people say to make nights smaller. The second night, the forest felt closer. That's the only way I can put it. The highway sounded farther away, as if somebody had turned the world down a notch. Bugs didn't kamikaze the neon the way they had. The air felt like it was waiting. About an hour in, I heard soft claws skitter, then weight settling by the back door. I eased it open and found a big dog in the alley blocky shoulders, white patch on his chest, a slight hitch in one rear leg. He stood sideways, facing the trees, still as taxidermy. He didn't look at me. He looked as if he was pretending not to hear something I couldn't. I went to grab a treat again, talking to him like an idiot through the door. "Hold on, buddy. Don't go." When I came back, the alley was empty. The only evidence of him was a few dark threads on the concrete, thin lines where blood had pulled itself along. Not drop strings, as if something had been carried and the road kept a slow note of it. My light brushed the tree line and caught 2 low points of reflection, then 2 higher points off to the right at exactly my eye height. All 4 points went dark at the same instant, like someone threw a switch. I don't remember making the decision to run. I remember the feel of the deadbolt under my palm and the sound of the bar sliding into the keeper. I remember the glass vibrating with my breath. And I remember the new handprint at eye level, higher by 2 finger widths, neat as a rung added to a ladder. Same little chip in the ring finger's whirl. This time I didn't wipe it. I cut to the stockroom because the stockroom has edges and edges make sense. The little cabinet under the hand sink sticks. When I yanked it, a black notebook caught and fell into my hands. It opened on its own from habit. The first line on the first page, written in blue pen and pressed hard. 2206 Zoris. Pasha. No last name. The entries were the length of a breath, all nouns and verbs, the way people write when they're too tired to sell a story. If the animal comes, don't talk. If it leaves, don't open. After the animal, there's always a hand. He likes clean glass. Dates, weather, mist, frost on edge of lot. Names: deer, dog, fox. Notes like warnings pinned to a fence. In the margin next to hand the same phrase a few times. Ring finger chip. Same. On a later page, people come in like their bodies are borrowed. They don't fear me. They fear being asked what they look at night. And under that, penned darker until the paper dented, the sheriff smiles in the wrong place, like he practiced someone else's lines. As if the book had cleared its throat for him, the bell over the front door chimed. He came in, the sheriff who buys coffee on day shift. Broad shoulders, hat with a polished badge that reflected the beer case. The kind of posture that tells tired people to rest some weight on someone else. I slid the notebook under a stack of flattened boxes. I poured him a cup he didn't ask for. I shouldn't have, but I asked anyway. The last night guy, did you know him? He left notes. He blinked slow, like he had to recall the steps for blinking. His face emptied, not in a way that said, I'm hiding something, but in a way that said, I'm not wired for this input. When he answered, the words felt like they'd been handed to him through a slot. Don't know anybody. Folks don't last out here. You're the first in a while. He stirred sugar he didn't taste. While he stood there, a new handprint ghosted onto the glass at his eye level. He didn't glance. He thanked me, set the cup down full, and left with his jaw set wrong, like it had to remember where the smile goes. I read until the hum of the coolers sounded like surf. One line I kept coming back to, a little tilted in the margin. 1 animal per night. If 2 come, you're counting wrong. It made me laugh once, quick and mean, alone in the back. The 3rd night arrived like cold water poured down the spine. It came in louder than the others. I don't mean sound, it came in tight. The canopy lamp fought itself twice, lost, and died into dark. In that not light, the lot became a grey plain with fewer edges than felt sane. The bellies of the trucks on the highway were just motion without source. The store became an aquarium turned inside out. The fish gone, the glass bright, the water outside. A crow announced himself from the rim of the dumpster with a torn, wet croak. When I brought the beam up, he didn't bolt. He tilted his head and held my light on his good eye, calm and mean. In his beak hung a ragged grey-pink strip with a dark vein laced through it. Flesh-looking. He stepped back when I stepped forward. He didn't leave. Something stood up in the shrubs where the lot stops pretending to be a lot. Not a deer, not a man exactly. A height, a width, a steady center. I realized my body was already moving back to the door, shoulder first. while my eyes were still out on the crow. I hit the rear exit and pushed, and the bar gave the kind of resistance that makes you try harder the wrong way. Panic forgets directions. Our back door opens toward you, not away. I yanked the handle the way my muscles begged to and got nothing. The dark under the canopy thickened like someone unplugged the night. I grabbed the mop handle and made my voice big on purpose noise to keep other noises small. I swung at air and backed from the alley. I ran the long way around, burst in the front, through the deadbolt, hit the lights. The building took a full breath with me. Fluorescence staggered into it. The coolers found their note. On the glass, 2 hands, a new red one and a paler print at a slight angle, as if someone inside had lifted and tried to match it, missed by less than a finger's width, and backed away. The distance from the counter to the rear door feels like 20 steps when you're not in your head. It felt like 100 inside, whatever I had become. I made myself take it without running. The bar went into the keeper with a noise I will hear in any dream I ever have about locks. I dropped the chain, then stopped because I didn't want to hear the chain when I was listening for other things. They came, one at a time, polite and wrong. First, the scrape nail through paint-long, slow lines, with a pause at the end like punctuation. Then knuckles tap, 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 tap testing, learning what note stirred what echo. Then a breath at the seam dry in, careful out. So close the air on my side answered. Above, on the roof under the sign, little footfalls paced. With each, the sign's loose bracket made a tick like a metronome. On the far end of the lot, where water collects by the drain, the flat slap of a palm on a puddle. The sound carried up the wall and under my teeth. I chose to walk back to the stockroom. Running makes you pray. In the corner, I sat with my back in the angle and put my forehead on my knees. If I closed my eyes, I could feel the night like a person feels a room where the moving air is, where the quiet is thicker. I tried to breathe under the cooler note, so if someone had their ear to the front seam and listened for me, he'd hear his own breath instead. Silence is worse than noise because you start hearing design. In it, I heard the front glass make its soft tick as the temperature shifted. The freezer note drop a half step as a compressor took a rest. Something soft investigate the gap at the stockroom floor and stop. A single, delicate scrape started under the door and drew a short red line along the baseboard. I hadn't seen it begin. I watched it end. Then, through that same gap, a corner of paper eased into the room. Ragged edge, pushed slow, the way you push a note to someone you have decided should read it, but who hasn't agreed. I didn't touch it. I kept my hands where they were and counted my breaths like Pasha wrote, "Don't give him your 3, take his." When the quiet grew thick enough for Gray to find the windows, the paper was still there like a dry tongue in a mouth that didn't belong to me. Day shift found me in the corner with my fingers in the shape of fists I didn't remember deciding on. He said my name twice, and I heard it the second time. He asked me if I was okay, and I nodded like that was a word I could wear. The EMTs came and talked like I was still in the room. The sheriff came too. He stood facing the front glass, where the newest print sat at the exact center of a man's face. The same little nick in the ring finger spiral pinched the whorl like a comma. The sheriff smiled at nothing and wrote in a small notebook without looking down. New hire, 1 week. The pen scratched in a way that would make you swear there was a mouse in your wall. As they rolled me past the aisles, I looked at the door one last time. Behind the red print on the outside was a fainter palm on the inside, just off alignment, like two people on a window having the same idea a fraction of a second apart and deciding not to make it true. The canopy lamp tried to come back to life, failed, and blinked in a pattern that made me think of counting. Out by the trees, the crow dropped his strip and caught it again with a little flourish, eyes flaring and going dull at the same instant the way they had the second night. The sky couldn't decide to be morning. I don't know what was written on the paper that slid under the stockroom door. They didn't bring it with them. I do know that when the black notebook finds its way back, if it does, I'll tilt the last page to the light and see a soft indentation from a hand that wrote hard on the page above. Don't leave me more than I left you. Maybe it was Pasha. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe that's not a warning, but a rule. The store will keep being what it is, an aquarium set down at the edge of a forest. Daylight means bread and scratch-offs, and that nice woman who calls every clerk Hundroan. Night means a hissing lamp, a single animal stepping into the circle of light, and then a hand on the glass. Always one animal, always one hand. Always the same small scar in the ring finger pattern. The notebook says, if two hands come, you're counting wrong. I get that now. There's the one on the outside, and there's the one that almost matches it from within when you raise your own and don't quite touch. If I come back, I'll wash the glass at the start of the shift, not to erase anything. To make it clean enough that when the hand returns, I'll see the height, the angle, the way the ridge breaks, and whether my reflection lines up so perfectly I have to back away. I'll listen for the alley code tap. Tap. Pause. Tap and decide, again, what rules I believe in when the rules outside change. And if I hear keys at the seam, almost soundless as copper against steel, I'll put my ear to the door and breathe slow, and count, and hope that whoever is counting me loses track first.